Hi Aries, welcome to your November 2020 general tarot reading. It's Raina here. I have been trying to play around with some of these controls on my phone. I put it into macro mode, which is creating a bit of I don't know if it's kind of static on the actual visual. I hope that that doesn't show up in the final processing, but it really did seem to help with the lighting and also the focus. So it did help in that regard. So I'm going to just leave it at that, in that mode, because I was having trouble focusing it. And it was kind of like a blurry picture. So anyway, the heart of the matter is the Eight of Swords. And this is a card about negative self-talk and the limitations that you can feel as a result of that. You see the chrysalis, or that kind of cocoon stage of the butterfly, and it really gives me this feeling. I think this is a wonderful depiction from this deck, which is called the Wild Unknown Tarot deck, of the potential for a human being, if they can transcend that stage of being, of this negativity that people inflict upon themselves for whatever reason. I think it's just a force of habit and their own issues with self-esteem that occurs. And there may be something that you're trying to accomplish and it's holding you back, whatever these thoughts are. And it's like kind of like the old tapes playing. And, everything is possible if you can somehow transcend that. This does not really sound like the typical Aries person, because most of you, I think, have a certain amount of confidence and you tend to be very positive. So maybe those of you with inner planets in Pisces may especially be vulnerable. If you have Mercury in Pisces, the moon in the water elements, so the emotions are constantly engaged. The past position, we have the Temperance card, which is associated with Sagittarius, and maybe this is a person that you have met who has helped you to kind of break free from that programming. If this is a relationship issue, maybe you're in a negative relationship with somebody and you're trying to break free from it, but your negative self-talk is standing in the way. The Temperance card could be that person, but the Temperance card could be somebody who is helping you to break free and kind of point out your false assumptions. Also, the Temperance card could be you getting clean and sober and now being able to kind of see where you have been perhaps living a life of, that kind of, if you've been like had an addiction or anything like that, that can lead you down a road that is self-destructive and can actually lower your self-esteem little by little. And so, or even like when somebody's getting clean and sober, they see how their negative self-talk led them to that addiction. So it can work both ways. The higher message is the Five of Swords. So we've got the Eight of Swords and the Five of Swords. Now this can be like people who are actually, not your friends and kind of like talking smack about you behind your back. So basically what I would say about this Aries, this has such a Piscean feel to it. It's so funny. Is that if you find, that you're with somebody who you'd like to leave, like a primary relationship, and you'd like to leave it, but you feel like you can't, for whatever reason, you just feel like you can't even imagine actually leaving that relationship. Or perhaps you have this misplaced sense of loyalty or something like that, this card would be saying, your loyalty is misplaced. This person is cheating on you. Now, they may be accusing you of cheating. Who knows what this type of person would do? Because this is what they would specialize in, is to try to make you out to be the one who's wrong. That's why we call it gaslighting, because a person is the one doing the bad stuff, and yet they are pointing fingers at the other party and acting like, oh, no, it's all about you. You're the one. And you might not be the one at all. And they might be the one who is doing all of that stuff. The bottom line is that whether you have stayed with somebody because you weren't strong enough, maybe, like that's why I said with the Temperance card, it's about getting sober and being able to see things clearly. So if you were literally getting sober from substance abuse, then that is the beginning step, and there are many steps. It's not going to just be overnight. Aries people tend to be very impatient about getting on with it, but it's something that you have to be patient with yourself. If the Temperance card is somebody who's come into your life, and I said the sign Sagittarius because it's associated with it, just somebody who has that balancing effect on you, then that person may be able to point out where some of the comments that you make, which are really what you say to yourself privately, are to kind of challenge those assumptions. But the higher message is that somebody may be trying to plant those ideas in your head because of their behavior, because of their they stand to gain something from you feeling bad about yourself. So you have to make sure that you are on point. I really wonder if this is a fallout from the full moon in your sign last month, because I'm pretending it's November, but actually I mean October 1st. Because that was a full moon in your sign, and that can reveal things about yourself that you need to change. And now the ball is in your court. But you have to stop believing people's lies, or you're going to stay where you are. So if chances are you might know what their lies are, but you're in denial over them because you don't want to kind of have to change yourself in the process. What crosses you is the 9 of Wands. Again, this is atypical for Aries. This is a card of boundaries. It is a Wands, connect with fire energy. So on that level, it might be apropos. But in general, it's, Aries people tend to be very fierce about their sense of self and their boundaries. So to suggest that an Aries person would be a weenie is not really how it works. I mean, you're not really like that. But for some of you, you may have you may be very assertive in the workplace, and maybe in your private life, that's where you fall apart, or you just are a lot more vulnerable. It is important to note that astrology can only take us so far. We do have personal experiences that can inform the way that we view the world, and that's why the 8 of Swords, I don't know why I want to keep saying wands, the 8 of Swords is so important, because people have tapes that play in their head that, maybe things that parents would say to you when they were projecting their own stuff onto you, or just your culture, your influences. Culture can comprise all kinds of things, but the environment that you were nurtured in can give you these kinds of ideas that have to be challenged as you're an adult. That's part of being like on the spiritual path, and being an adult is being very conscious about these types of things, this conditioning, and being able to challenge it and really feel that you have your own opinions and your own ideas. The 9 of Wands basically is not standing up for boundaries, and this is what you need to do for some reason. So somebody may, I'm using this example. I'm going to use this example one more time, but I just want you to know, I'm not saying that all of you have just come out of rehab. I know better than that. But if you have been trying to get out of a very destructive relationship, that is a form of an addiction. And sometimes it really takes over your mind. It takes over your life, where you're not able to see things clearly. So it really is very little different than alcoholism or something like that, and it can be progressive, just like addictions to substances can be addictive. So it can create distortion. So the point is that when you're coming from addiction and you're in the recovery phase, you have to start doing things differently. It's not just about separating yourself from that bad habit or that person. You have to decide that whatever it was that you were doing before isn't working, and now you have to do different things. And that means setting boundaries. That's one of the steps of recovery, is that you're setting boundaries, which basically means that you're not just going to tolerate other people's bad behavior. And you have to be very responsive to it as soon as you are. It's not about being defensive. It's about about being very controlled in your response. The people who lash out, who are defensive, they're not in control. But being able to say, I don't like that tone. I don't want to be spoken to like that. I know that I allowed it before, but I'm not doing that anymore. And you don't even have to raise your voice. You can just make it very clear that you're not going to be treated in a certain way anymore. And however somebody else chooses to respond to that request or that basic demand, that's on them, but you can't keep playing the victim and expect not to be the victim if you continue on that path. So this might even be somebody else's addiction that you have been dealing with, and maybe you have to set the guidelines or the boundaries. This is something that people learn when they go into recovery for somebody else's addiction. They learn that they are playing a part in all of that. It's not their fault that that person is an addict. But it's part of their responsibility not to help it continue. So we can't control other people's behavior, but we can control our reaction to their behavior. What's coming in is represented by the Seven of Pentacles. This is about the gradual ascension, and we see it in this card, of your financial well-being, or if this is a financial venture, some kind of a job. And perhaps this is something that you have been wanting to make happen, and something has maybe not been birthed yet. Definitely, I just want to let you know that in December, well, let me see if this was... Well, this is actually, I shouldn't just limit it to your own business, because it doesn't have to be. I was going to talk about this solar eclipse that's happening in Sagittarius for you, Aries, but I don't think that is really specifically connected to this card. I think that what I would say is, if you have been investing your time into creating a business, and maybe there has been a lot of kind of instability, or with the Temperance card, maybe it's all your attitude. Either it's kind of like too extreme. Perhaps you've been wanting just, okay, I want to show me the money. I want to see this. The money may be coming gradually. And if you're impatient, you might throw in the towel before it has established itself. So you have to be able to be patient. If this is a relationship, a new relationship, the Temperance card, somebody, has come into your life who maybe is a lot more stable than what you have personally been used to, are you willing to go slowly? Do you just want everything to happen at once? And maybe that was the problem with you, is that you're too extreme in your behavior. You're too wanting things to just happen right away. And that tends to scare people off. Sometimes they can feel that you are controlling if you do something like that. So that's, to me, the Eight of Swords. Sometimes when people are doing things like that, it's because they really fear that if they don't do something like that, that they won't be able to keep that person in their life. Maybe you haven't had a good track record, some of you. And being able to take things slowly and to appreciate the journey is so important. But at the same time, being able to put your foot down when you need to. I think the Nine of Wands too is knowing what is normal, what is not, what is acceptable, what is not. And if you're kind of like, I think sometimes with Aries is a very intelligent sign, but it's not a very observant sign as far as signs go. In other words, you don't tend to notice the small details. You tend to see more of the bigger picture, which has its own benefits, to be able to see kind of an expansive version of things, but sometimes it can lead to missing red flags, signs that something is off. And, in those instances, then it is wise not to invest more time into something, and you might just continue to do that. So it's about being more observant, intentional, and plugged in, which is also an intuitive thing. And the outcome is the Queen of Swords, Mother of Swords here. And this is a perfect depiction as far as I'm concerned, because you can see, I was going to say those eagle eyes, but the owl's eyes are very observant and kind of like honing in on the heart of the matter, whatever that is in this situation that the Eight of Swords represents. Maybe that's the person you're with, and perhaps they are an air sign. Libra is your opposite sign. There's also Gemini and Aquarius. And whoever this person may be, you might feel that it's your fault. You might take responsibility for their bad behavior. Perhaps they're gaslighting you and they're trying to make you feel like you're in the wrong. Now, maybe there have been things that you've done that haven't been correct, but that doesn't mean you're all bad, and it is possible that somebody else is trying to escape scrutiny about what they're really up to. So you have a decision to make, whether you're going to allow somebody to control you or not. Also, if you have someone in your life, a new person who is really kind of treating you in a different way, maybe than you've ever been treated before, you have to look at how are you relating to that person. Are you kind of questioning them? Do you think that maybe there's something wrong with this person? Because that might come up for you, and that might be a sign that you're not fully ready to embrace somebody who cares for you. And that's sad, because you're worth caring for. You're worth having, a person like that in your life. So it's really about tuning in. And, the Queen of Swords, you might have a decision to make, but you can't make it if you're going to turn off your emotions completely. Yes, be rational, but also be compassionate, especially with yourself, Aries, because you may be beating yourself up for some reason, and it might be a bad influence from somebody else who's only pointing out all the things that are wrong with you and not saying, enough good things about you. And you need more of those types of people in your life. I mean, if you're dealing with a Sagittarian, chances are they're the type of person who's going to be positive enough to show that. Just a little bit of disclosure here. I'm a Sun in Sagittarius, so maybe that's why I'm saying such nice things about Sagittarius. But in any case, it's worth thinking about at the very least. Okay, that's what I have for you. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you'd like a personal reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.